hopefully good things. I mean, to live is to hope. Hello, everyone. Andrew Hall, Dr. Kennard, along with Dr. Tom Foolery, respectable person. Well, I mean, it has to be true. I see it right there.
Yeah, of course.
What's up, John Hudson?
What's up, guys?
You
Hey,
got
John.
you're sporting the rocking chair. I see.
Rocking chair, yes, sir. You can't tell if I'm just being nervous or rocking this way.
That's just how you rock, man. That's just how you rock.
You're a respectable person today.
Yeah, it sometimes happens.
Yeah, I think Bo's full of shit on this one. I live in a small town, 80%, 86% white. And I noticed the people that are pulled over by the police are people of color.
And I really don't, once again, man, I like to spend my time taking it to the right and taking it to the other side, but it just seemed so gratuitous. It just seemed like I had to say something,
Yeah.
it just bothered me.
It sounded like people saying, "How could the cops be racist? They treat me fine."
Yeah, dude. Yeah, exactly. It was such a glaring omission. But once again, I think hopefully someone will have mentioned it to him, the flaw in logic, and he'll think about it, right? I mean, he's obviously a smart guy. He's well spoken, and it's difficult to always be technical with your punches, so to speak, on YouTube or any other platform.
Well, I like the way you put your links in there to where, we can go back and look at it and say, yeah, fuck Andy's bullshit this time. But I
Right.
have
Right.
fun.
Exactly.
But I'd love to call you out on it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this, coming from a blogging background does help because people are more than willing to tell you that you're full of shit. Or that you got the comma wrong, or that there's supposed to be you shouldn't. Yeah, there's all kinds of folks there um, that helped me get a little bit more technical, I guess, with my assertions and citing assertions. Yeah.
Well, I think since I said this on Twitter the other day, but since the advent of Twitter, since that became a thing, you don't hear a lot of people saying, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but because you don't need to anymore.
You don't need to. You don't need
They're
to.
going to do it on their own will, aren't they?
With varying measures of quality there.
It should be something like, now, correct me if your bias makes you believe that I'm wrong.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. But it's one of you were talking about. You don't intentionally cover news items on the left, but if you cover the news items that are news items on the topics you cover, are there any on the left, and how many are there? And even if you did cover them,
Yeah,
and exclusively them at the start of your show, maybe 5 minutes a week. Like,
yeah. Well, especially once again the big question facing, I mean, and it isn't just this country because right wing populism is on the march around the world, right? We see it in Eastern Europe, we see it in political parties in Western Europe, and yeah, there's that little insurgency that happened just this year. So it just seems to be the most relevant thing to talk about.
Well, and when you say you don't criticize people on the left, like I have the same policy. But you mean like, true people on the left, progressives? Because me and you, we've both criticized moderate Democrats and weakness in the Democratic Party. So it's like, I totally got what you were saying. If somebody's being out there and they're standing true for their ideals, you don't want to pick on a mistake. And that seems to be what this might be on Bo's part, because I have watched some of his other videos and he seems like a decent dude, a decent leftist. But we do need, I think, every once in a while to kind of like, not in a mean way, but say, hey, you're just wrong here. You know,
Right.
We should have no sacred cows. No sacred cows.
I agree, Tobin. Definitely. Yeah. Um, yeah. And you know what I usually do is if I have I have an issue with somebody, I might just privately message them. But I imagine Miss Bo gets a ton of people messaging him every day, and I don't think he's going to really hear what I have to mention. So yeah, and it's a tutorial. It's really a learning. It's really a chance for understanding, or for, like I said, deconstructing and understanding what people's messages are, and the importance of putting links in, and just telling, having support for your assertions.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And you know, like when I went back and I listened to what he was saying, it was like, yeah, that's your experience, bro. But let me tell you about mine. You know, I come from a very small town in North Carolina. More cows than people was our joke, and we had about 8 black people in our high school, which you can imagine. You know, back then it was like 20, maybe 20, 30 people in the whole county. That were black, and our elected police officials targeted them relentlessly. It was an atrocity, and I'm sure it's changed now, but at the same time, it probably hasn't changed all that much. Those rural dynamics don't often change.
Yeah, it just comes down to the basic: how do you know what you know? And if it's just from your own lived experience, then that has some serious limitations to it. That has serious limitations.
There's been a book written on my small town, and the wrongdoings of our. We don't have police. We have the sheriff and Texas DPS. It's a little bit different.
Wow.
But yeah, there's some dark stuff that goes on around here for sure.
I thought you were going to say we have no police, but there's an active militia keeping things in order.
You know, I do think it's like a common misperception, because oftentimes we do focus on police in urban areas, and we don't talk about policing in rural areas enough. But I mean, policing needs reform across the board. It's not just in the cities. It's all over the place. We give these people too much power.
Exactly.
Yeah, they get gung ho. There's a recent event that happened here. There was 2 cops, or our Texas DPS, were going to the same crime, and one dude was he was very over the top. Like, he always wanted to be getting the bad guy in a way, and he was racing to this, and he was going so fast, he like plowed into the other cop, flipped his car. He ended up killing himself just trying to get to this I think it was a break-in, and they're chasing the guy who did the break-in. But it's crazy. Some of these cops get really overly righteous too. Like,
one of the biggest problems with American police force is the kind of people attracted to join police forces.
Mm-hmm.
The people who want power over others, people who want to use guns and violence and think that they have the authority to just deal justice to other people. Oftentimes those people are more zealous and just authoritarian.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. We used to joke that the guy you stuffed in the locker goes on to become a cop. You know, that's what we used to joke. But I'm reading in the side chat. Not all cops are bad, but these institutions are breeding grounds for certain types of personalities. The churches are the same. When you talk about sexual abuse within church dynamics, well, it's because these institutions draw these predators, and the police institutions are no different.
And you're spot on with that, because both institutions are not transparent, right? The churches are not transparent. Police forces are not transparent. So you don't actually know what's going on. You don't know what's going on in those institutions that have so much power and influence.
Yeah, and we need to take away their abilities to turn off their body cams. Like, why they shouldn't even be able to turn them off. There's no reason for it. It's all taxpayer at this point. It's all funded by us, and we should know what's going on in our police forces.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning the chat, Rage, because you were reading my mind. I was about to bounce over there. Yeah, Jesse Bear educating people about white privilege and what that actually means. It's important just to keep talking about those kind of basics, about privilege, about wealth disparity, about the problems of possible theocracy creeping up in this country, all those things.
Yeah, I saw a good meme about it the other day. It's like, if you tell yourself, well, that never happens to me, that's probably privilege.
Oh, yeah. Too true, right? Too true.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, we talk about religion and what type of people that breeds, and what type of people are attracted to it, and what type of people specifically are drawn to it for the sake of knowing that they'll be put in a position where they're in power or able to manipulate. And they are very, very stereotypically big fish in a little pond people, right? Some of them are sexual predators. Some of them are musicians who never made it but get to play their music at the church. Some of them are people who would never be permitted to speak in public but can speak and be listened to intently. There are all kinds of different people who go there, and some of them are the type of people who want to get in a position of power that they would never be able to attain over a certain demographic of people so that they can manipulate them.
Right. Yeah. When you have a police force that doesn't actually focus on de-escalating the situations, and when it's focused primarily on dominating and controlling, those are the personalities you're going to get.
I think you have a different. I think that it all comes down to what you just said: de-escalating. Like, if you put 9 bullets into somebody, you're de-escalated. You're done. That's it. Day's over. Write out some paperwork. Go home.
De-escalating America style. Yeah.
But that's just the easy way. That's not.
And also, a lot of white supremacist groups in the United States actively encourage their members to become police.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So do gangs do it as well. Police and military. I was reading a fascinating report about gang membership in the military is something that you just never think about, but it's there and it's really prevalent.
Whoa.
One of the reasons why the Bolsheviks in Russia in 1917 were able to take power is because they had a lot of soldiers on their side. A lot of
these forces, even Rotan forces, it becomes this. We speak about it, the Blue Brotherhood. They have this street mentality. Snitches get stitches, and they don't snitch on each other. They have this. It's that old Batman cliche. Is like, when do you stop being the good guy and start becoming the bad guy? And a lot of these police forces have that problem because we as a people have given them more and more and more power, and we do that by electing officials that are willing to placate to their lobby.
Yeah. And also having at least Iraq and we're out of Afghanistan, so there's less of a chance of police forces getting all this military equipment.
Well, I don't know if you guys have the same problem in the United States. Condition, whatever you want to call it, in the United States. But in Canada, there's a specific motorcycle gang that has, for decades, infiltrated the prison system and basically has the majority of the demographic of security guards within the Canadian prison system belong to this specific motorcycle gang.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a problem.
We kind of had a similar problem with Trump using Hell's Angels for security and stuff like that. Bikers for Trump, he used them for security. I have read reports, not like of gangs so much infiltrating, but police, and it could be from gang infiltration, but it was specifically in California and Los Angeles County somewhere. A police force there was a gang operating within the police force, and it was just all police members, and they were part of a gang. It was a gang, and that's all coming to light. But it's not really national news. You have to really kind of scour the California news for it.
I have to tell you, Dr. Mordecai, I might steal that joke. I look racist, so cops treat me good. That's real. It's raw, it's funny, and it's
it's the absolute story of my life, man. I'm like, I don't have a racist bone in my body anymore. So I'm Native American, but I look totally white, and white people come up to me and they're like, "Yep, you're a racist too. So let me just start saying the N-word." And I'm like, after I, have that O expression on my face for 30 seconds, I go at him. But there's that 30-second period where I'm like, oh my fucking God.
I will say this. I was in a social situation the other day, and I had to do my international sign. I think you might be, because I still don't have my yellow and red cards, which I still have to buy. I'm like, I think you're getting a little bit over. I think you're getting into dangerous territory there.
I get that a lot myself, where people think I'm some fucking racist pig or something, and I wear Roman sandals and beads, and still, because of the color of my skin.
Right. It's
my bald head doesn't help me out.
Oh no, dude, you're like a poster child.
Yeah, I've got to be a neo-Nazi,
The problem in my area with the sheriff's department is that this county is half St. Paul, or urban kind of place, and half suburban. And the suburbs keep on voting for the right-wing Republican sheriff that cracks down on minorities, and like any city in the county that contracts with the sheriff's department for their police, horrible situations there. The cities that have their own police force, not as bad because they're not directly under the racist sheriff who oftentimes is in power.
Mm. Oh yeah, I think we saw that in the protest. 2 summers ago now. Wow, it's really been 2 summers now. But the police and the communities would oftentimes try to do their best to police both sides, and it would be the police coming in from other communities that tended to be the problem a lot of the time.
Yeah. Bikers.
But the suburbs electing the sheriff to police the more urban inner city areas, like
the Bikers for Christ out here, because Cryptomeria is out here with the very close to me. Most of them are really great people, but like in any group, when you hit a certain volume, a level of people, there will be people who have their own agenda, right?
Yeah.
But Bikers for Christ, I mean, they've let me ride. They're bikers. They're like Harley Davidson and Norton, and, the old style bikes. And back in the day, I just had a regular Honda CBR, and they were like, "Yeah, come on, we're doing a teddy bear ride. Get in the back and follow us through."
My dad's a Biker for Christ, and he's just your typical Southern fundy, good dude with some bad ideas,
Yeah.
I'm biking for Jesus, brother.
I'm eating what they're trying to say, because none of them wear full face masks, so they're eating bugs for Christ.
Oh man, that's that sounds tasty.
Speaking of biking, we went on a little tour of the United States, and even in Washington State, there are some areas that are patrolled by state troopers. The what do they call them? The sheriffs, the guys. They're not the regular. They're not police force like city police. And we had people tell us, like, if a cop pulls out behind you with lights on, don't stop till you make it to the next county.
Yeah.
Well, we have the police, we have the constables, we have the sheriffs, and the highway patrol that rolls down 290 all the time. The truck I drive looks like a Hayes County Sheriff truck, so they don't ever fuck with me.
Right.
We
My
have
daughter-
sheriffs in Canada, but they're the people who move prisoners from the detention center to the prison or to the courthouse or to whatever. They have a different role here than you guys.
Are they the
Sheriffs do that here as well.
they
Okay.
warehouse prisoners too?
I'm sorry,
They warehouse prisoners too.
they warehouse
Yes,
prisoners.
they run the jail.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
At least in Salt Lake, where I went to jail, it was the sheriffs.
yeah.
Yes. So police are city level, sheriff county level. Then there's like state troopers or whatever, U.S. Marshals. Each level of police basically have a different term for them, but county level and county jail is run by the county county sheriffs.
Yeah, we have areas here that are so small they can't police themselves. So
Yeah.
we have the Royal Canadian Mounted Police have an office or a nearby office, and they patrol a certain area. But often we'll have city police, and then we'll have the sheriff services, we'll have Canada Corrections, and then the RCMP does federal investigations and stuff like that as well. So
Yeah. So for certain areas that are small enough, it's usually the sheriff that takes over the policing duties around here.
And those are the places we've been told, like, you don't want to get pulled over there. And the cop car that he's driving only does 120 miles an hour, and your bike does more. So
Yeah, James Henry pointed out that I believe James is over in over in Holland. That all
Right.
the cops wear the same uniform. No sheriffs or state police. Well, maybe you should be like America and get more police officers at different levels because we're super safe over here.
you know what they need
What?
to keep their crime rate down is more guns.
Oh, more guns.
More guns.
Right.
Like
Yes.
they should have teachers with guns. That would keep all the crime rates down.
Well, you get to shoot the COVID that way too, Dave.
Good one.
I hear if you shoot it with ivermectin shells, which is fucking hilarious. I'm gonna use that.
I'm still surprised that that icon I made of Tide Pods now with ivermectin.
Right.
I still haven't had that taken down. It's still up.
I like
For
that.
sure somebody's gonna notice.
I was reading an article the other day that beets are the new thing that they're eating to combat COVID, and I'm just like, yeah. It took a conspiracy theory to get people to eat beets.
Okay. Worst
Brought
things
to
could
you by
happen.
the beet farmers of America.
You have to
I-
take beats rectally to have them work properly.
That's it.
And sometimes I wonder if it's the investors in a particular drug company that say, yes, the drug of this company can cure COVID. And then they start selling their stock as soon as it goes up. And
Are you trying to say there's some kind of bizarre pump and dump strategy in terms of raising the price of beets, maybe, or beet pills?
It sounds like something Trump owns.
Oh yeah.
Look at the money. You'll find the source.
yeah,
Well, it's like all the ivermectins and stuff are under lock and key in all the feed stores around here. The one feed store made you show a picture of you with your horse to get ivermectin.
That's fucking
They're
hilarious.
doing that.
John Hudson, tell me if I'm wrong, but the most gangster thing I can think of right now is going down and knocking off some of those feed stores and stealing ivermectin and just like selling it on the black market, man.
Black
Just
market
like-
ivermectin.
Come into the street corners in your local town.
We should start with a new product that cures COVID and start the whole conspiracy theory and call it humormectin.
Humormectin.
Humormectin. It's for humans, but it's based on ivermectin. It's humormectin.
Oh, I like that, Dave. I like that a lot.
See how far we can push that into the ether.
Right. And then you have to get your humormectin in a vaccine. You can get it down.
Just put it in your inhaler with the what are they putting in the inhalers now? The hydrogen peroxide. Yeah. That's brilliant.
What?
You haven't heard of this? There's like an epidemic. The respiratory authority in the United States has had to put out a notice on their website to tell people not to put hydrogen peroxide in their nebulizers and in their ventilators, because people were saying that it cured COVID. So people were actually putting that in. Yeah.
That's like a hop, skip, and a jump from just drinking bleach, basically.
It's not a long throw.
It's not. It's no. It's not a long throw at all.
The plan is working. The herd is thinning.
I know. I posted yesterday. Like at some point, the liberals are just going to have to walk away and say, "Just let it run its course." Like this is not a bad thing for the world.
Well, this like
the favorite conspiracy theory I've heard from the right wing is that the liberals are intentionally trying to make the right wing vaccine hesitant to kill them, because if we push it so much, right wingers will feel like they'll be cucked if they were to take the vaccine. Therefore, by pushing it so much, we're convincing them not to in some sort of big reverse psychology scheme.
54D chess, yo. 54D chess. I passed like this headline. I passed it because it seemed like it was clickbait, but it was like Breitbart saying take the vaccine to own the libs. I'm wondering if it was about what you're talking about.
Oh God.
What's up, Clockwork?
Oh, nothing much. How you guys today?
Look.
Thought I'd pop up and just let y'all know that the county that I grew up in, the feds came in and arrested 3/4 of the county cops for corruption, including the sheriff.
What kind of
post that? That's remarkable.
What kind
they
of
actually
corruption?
got arrested?
Yeah. So what kind of corruption was it? Was it drugs?
Oh, they would take drugs off people, and then they had a house set up where they would sell the drugs and the guns that they took off of people. That kind of corruption.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I stayed well away from those motherfuckers.
Down where I grew up, we had a sheriff, not in my town, a couple towns over, Davidson County. I can't remember the sheriff's name. It was like 20 years ago. But like he made national news. He was like one of the first sheriffs to ever paint the jail cells pink, and he had inmates on chain gangs and shit. His brother was the biggest cocaine dealer in the area.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, because I lived in Henry County, Virginia. If you know where that's at. It's just right across.
Yeah, that's right up. Right up across the border. Yep.
Yeah, it's got that racetrack. Yeah, the town would go from like maybe 20,000 people in the city and county to fucking 750,000 people whenever a race was there.
Yeah.
Luckily, that only happened twice a year. So. But still, I stayed well
that's
away
like
from that too. Yeah.
That's like a reoccurring story that just keeps on happening over and over. I remember learning about Michael Rupert, a whistleblower who was like telling on other CIA or DEA agents who were not only busting people but then selling the shit.
Yeah.
Well, when I got busted, I had 67 plants.
Oh, go ahead.
The count from the place was 62.
I didn't get all of that, John Hudson. Can you say that again?
When I got busted, there was 67 plants. The police count was 62.
Oh yeah. They just skimmed a bit. That's all.
Yeah. Well, there's been situations out here with both the prisons and the police where people have been pulled over on the side of the road with loads, and they've been given a speeding ticket. There's been no record of those loads, and of course they're just turning them over to either their friends or selling them, or they're making deals. And it's a big problem in the prison system when you have guards that can go through and toss somebody's cell without having to write a report, without being on camera, without doing anything, and they can take all of the goods and paraphernalia away from one inmate, don't want to say criminal, inmate, and they can put them in the hands of the gang leader or the drug dealer or the person who handles that within the prison. And they're generating a power curve within that institution, right? So
Oh yeah, and they're getting kickbacks too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure they are. Yeah.
I just realized how stupid I am once again by just thinking to myself, why don't prison guards have body cams? Why? I
Do
haven't
you want to
even
know
heard
the answer to the question?
We owned the prison guards. When I went to prison, we owned them. They were ours. They were our bitches.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, I was part of folk, and yeah, we controlled the prison guards on our hall. They did our bidding. We didn't do theirs.
Without incriminating yourself too much, how would you go about what kind of things were you getting or manipulating by, or what?
They were bringing in our drugs, making we could do anything. If we had to do a gangbang on somebody, they would make the situation possible to where they would be conveniently elsewhere on the hall. I mean, we could do. We had the run of the place, and I was middle ground, but the Kings, they just cut them a piece of the cake, and that's how they made their money. The prison system weren't paying them shit.
Oh yeah. And there's what's that old saying? Everybody has their price.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's follow the money. And there you go.
James Henry wrote down in the chat, when I was a cop, there were drug raids. I estimated there were at least 3 kilos of cocaine. We'd have to wait for the drug squad to confiscate it. The arrest report came to only 1 kilo.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it just keeps on happening over and over again. I mean, how do we stop that from happening? How do you prevent that from happening? I mean, I don't know.
I think the best way is just to create a less shitty environment for people to do less shitty things.
and body cams on guards would be a great start. But I think what they're afraid of is showing you just how bad it still is. We have this idea that we reformed our prison system and that inmates are somehow treated better than slaves now. They're not.
They're not. I was watching this video before the first show about the Brazilian social safety net, and about how they instituted this kind of universal basic income for poverty-stricken people. And surprise, surprise, it actually made the society less shitty. So people did less shitty things. There's still a lot of problems in Brazil. Don't get me wrong.
Imagine that.
But if you create a less shitty society, people are going to do, in general, less shitty things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we have a problem here. We lock up more people than anywhere in the world. So a lot of times we lock up people that commit crimes that we shouldn't be locking them up for. They get mingled into the population with real criminals, and those people become prey. It is very harmful the way our prison system operates, but nobody wants to talk about it. I mean, that's why we don't have cameras on prison guards. Nobody wants to go inside a prison, not unless it's a very controlled environment to where they can control the narrative coming out.
Yeah.
I think it also makes a lot of people racist. There's so many people that I can think about that I've met through my life that came out of prison and they had tattoos and stuff, and they're affiliated with some kind of white supremacy group or something, or I have those ideas, and it's weird. It's like prison makes people racist. It makes people click up.
It backs you into your corner, so you can be a perfectly unracist dude, but maybe the only people that are going to save you from certain situations are those people standing over there in the Aryan Nation, because they have the power. And if you go and stand with them, nobody's going to mess with you. I mean, that's how they work on you. Until you've been inside, it's really even hard to conceive just the dynamics that goes into surviving on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And pretty much, standards or ideals go out the window when survival's on the line.
I'd be like, is there a way for us to be a less toxically white supremacist? I don't think
Well,
that
nobody likes to
Yeah.
have an accident in the shower. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
hang with
when
who you hang with that's going to keep you safe in there.
Yeah, and they try to pretend like it's different now, but I just don't really think it is. I mean, the way we do prisons is just wrong, and you can look to pretty much everywhere else in the world to see that, but we're America, everything we do is perfect, and why change something? It makes no sense. We have to keep creating these laws so we can keep locking people up.
Yeah, and to go back to something Braid said, we lock up more people than China. Let that sink in for a minute.
Yeah.
China, where you can go to jail for 10 years for peeing in public.
Exactly. And we lock up more people than that country does.
Now, most of it's due from the war on drugs, but
that's crazy.
You mean the war on drugs? What drugs?
Huh. Well, I don't know if I've told y'all this, but as of July the 1st, marijuana became legal in my state. And I can grow 4 plants and walk around with an ounce of pot.
That's great, dude. Congratulations on that.
Well, you said July 1st. What year?
This year.
Oh.
Yeah.
But
hey, it's now.
I see what you did there, Dave. I see what you did there. You in Canada. Yeah.
I'm waiting for the studies to come back since it's been legalized here. I want to know, if drunken driving has gone down, if criminality itself has gone down, because in a lot of states, I mean, people chill when they smoke. So,
I know from our experience up here, we had an initial surge in everyone wanted to try legal weed. Everyone wanted to try safe weed. Everybody decided it was a good idea and jumped on board. And instead of getting drunk tonight, we'll get high tonight. And people started experimenting with whether or not CBD was going to help their pain. Some of them it did, some of them it didn't. But we're now hitting that level where it went way up and then the market kind of crashed and then it's leveled out. So we're looking at data now, only now after legalizing marijuana, that it's actually become just a normal thing, right? So we'll see from here forward, how many people are, like you say, how it's going to affect drunk driving, how it's going to affect regular use, how it's going to affect compulsive use. I don't know what they call it. They don't call it addiction anymore. They call it compulsive.
Because but there's a lot of potential that it can make drunk driving worse because you're more intoxicated if you're smoking.
Well, if you're smoking and drinking,
There was data on. I can't remember who did it, but there was data on the difference between somebody driving drunk, and they put them in simulators, right? They didn't do this on the street, but they had people drink to different levels. I think the most drunk they were is 0.08 or something like that.
Mythbusters did one like that.
Staggeringly drunk, but then there was people who were also high on marijuana, and consistently over the entire data, male, female, young, and old, the people who were high on marijuana drove excessively slow.
Yes.
That was what I was just thinking. Yeah. It's like you're crawling down the road. Man, I'm going too fast.
Yeah. Well, it's when you mix the two. You guys picked up on that right away. Synergism occurs. You're mixing two different drugs, and 1 + 1 no longer equals 2. It equals some unknown number depending on the person. So
and it's important to remember when we start looking at numbers about people using marijuana or people who use it a lot, that typically if you're an abuser, if you're addicted, or I don't know, whatever the current term is, what Dave, you just said it, obsessive user, compulsive user. So if you compulsively use one substance, there's a high chance that you're compulsively using several substances. It isn't just, you're just not sticking in one lane.
And it's very likely that if you only use one compulsively and you stop, that something else will fill that void.
Well,
Yeah, I was told, because I was considered a poly addict when I was going through drug treatment as a teenager. I was addicted to 3 or more different drug families, and it was more of a rarity. Most people do settle in on their one thing now. Most alcoholics do smoke weed, and I think culturally those two things have become synonymous. But usually, usually it's alcohol is what you're mixing with your drug of choice if you're a drug addict, right? Yeah. So like if you're a cocaine user, it's usually going to be alcohol, sometimes weed, but it's not going to be both. So yeah, I think it's usually like 2 is what most people kind of fall on, and then if one of those is taken away, they'll substitute something else. I did it when I stopped drinking. I substituted my pain pills, and they were sedative hypnotics, same drug family, same effects, but just I could tell myself I wasn't drinking any longer.
I tell you what, if you use some weed with some mushrooms or some acid, it really gets things going. It's pretty cool.
I'm too old for that now, Tobin.
Yeah. I'm tapped out.
Oh, sorry, well. Rage. I think you made a good point there, but in Vancouver we have a big party community, and there is a lot of opiate and alcohol mixing. And that tends to be a very bad thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, see, I was never into the opiates too much. I hate the pain pills they give me because I don't like the way they make me feel.
Yeah, I've never been big on opiates either. I mean, but yeah, to go back to what Tobin said, yeah, we may or may not have dropped a hit and smoked a joint back in the day, and then you were good to go for the rest of the night. But he's like, I will not incriminate myself.
Yeah, I wonder if anyone in the chat is on psychedelics right now watching Andy, especially when he puts up those cat videos. That cat video was great today, by the way, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly what the cat was thinking.
Oh, yeah, I specifically let the cat's perch is right by the window. So when she looks out, she'll be able to see, because we have a rat problem. I've talked about the rat issue many times here on the channel in our neighborhood. So I feel like if she wasn't so lazy, maybe, she's like napping a lot of the time being a cat. But I think she fantasizes when she sleeps. She fantasizes about killing the critters out there.
We used to have 2 cats, and we had a cat door. And you'd see them sitting on the back of the sofa looking out the window, and all of a sudden their ears would go up, their heads would go up, and they'd both bolt out the door, and you'd be like, I wonder what's going on out there.
Something to kill.
Oh, I had a cat who used to love to chase down spiders. She would chase them down and put a paw on top of them, and then take them off and look at the spider. When the spider started moving again, she'd chase them down and put her paw on top. Eventually she ate them.
Our cat would do that with mice until they had a heart attack. Yeah.
They're vicious, man. They are really ruthless. They will sit there and play with it, bat it back and forth. It's trying to like limp away, just dragging half of its body, and the cat's like, watching it, and then, no, I'm gonna drag you back.
Yeah. I've mentioned this before, but cats are the most prolific hunting animal in the entire animal kingdom on Earth.
Oh yeah,
they kill more things and a greater variety of species than any other animal.
I came to the realization that my cat Biscuit thinks of me as prey. And I'm going up the stairs, and she's like looking at me from the landing above, and then she hides around the corner when I come down. It's like, that cat's hunting me. Consistently.
Stalking. I got a stalking.
Stalking. That's right.
Yeah. I'll attack his ankle.
I don't know if y'all know this guy named Cody Peterson. He does animal videos and insects and stuff. He goes out to these forests and collects stuff. But he has one video where he's out in Brazil. He's going down this trail, and he comes across a cub, a baby cat. I can't remember what type of cat it was, but it was a baby one, but big enough still to mess up things. And he's sitting there playing with the cat during the video, like teasing him with the bag. Like the cat really liked the bag, and then the cat was like jumping on his back. And I'm like, dude, I don't know if you should be encouraging that behavior. Like, dude,
if it was a small cat, mama cat's around there somewhere,
Yeah.
and she's watching your ass, and you might not see her when she creeps up on you.
There is a video of a little girl who's going for a walk in the trails with her mom, and I don't know where it was. I think it was in the northern United States somewhere, maybe Montana or something. And the mother walks down the trail, and the kid's off ahead of them, and she rolls up on her kid, and she's petting a baby bobcat. She's like, "No, honey, no."
Wow. Yeah.
Shoot.
So no, Jesse Bear says prisoners are treated worse than cattle, and that continues into probation.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the difficulty in finding work after. Yeah.
Yeah, we stigmatize certain individuals in our societies, felons, drug addicts, and really don't give these people opportunities to come back into a society that's wanting them back. So it's a huge problem in where we live, United States.
And it really is an effect of this Christian or this monotheistic kind of concept of that. There's this emphasis on punishment, right? An emphasis on burning in hell forever and punishing those here on. If you have a God that punishes people forever, it's somewhat congruent to have a society that punishes, that likes to take out the rod and attack its own citizens.
There's a organization. Well, there's two of them. One of them is the British Columbia Yukon, which is BC and Yukon territories, they call it, Halfway House Association. And there's an organization called the John Howard Society up here. And John Howard was released back into population and obviously struggled with what exactly you're talking about. So now there is a society to actually help people who are leaving prison reintegrate, because in a decade, like even if you only serve 10 years of a sentence, I say only, but even 4 years is a huge gap. How many? That's like 6 iPhones, right? I mean, the society changes so much while you're away that you need some help. And many people in prison have learned not to ask for help because help costs, right? There's always a cost associated with it. So there is this organization that helps people. I believe this one, the John Howard Society, is just for males, and I know there's another one for the females. But they have halfway houses, and they have programs, and they have counselors, and they have all that. And it's a necessary part of the corrections institutions, and it's being run by private organizations because there's no money here for it, right? And you can't put people in prison and put them into a prison that's populated by criminals and criminal elements and gangs and gang elements, and then just say, here's a bus ticket, good luck.
Yeah, true enough. Yeah, there has to be a web of supports for people getting out of prison, as well as anyone who needs it. Radical concepts, I know. You got some fans. D Parks, harsh words for Dave.
Dave, shut up.
Yeah. Harsh words.
I think that would solve the problem. More cats in prisons.
More cats and more marijuana. Yeah.
Weed would help.
Weed would help. Yes.
Yeah,
I think coming out of prison, your hardest. So you learn to live a certain way. When you're living for survival, you live a certain way. So and you're coming out into a society that doesn't allow you to live that way anymore. And humans just don't change overnight. So I think we had this really high recidivism rate because people are going back into their same communities, but they're acting in a much more aggressive way than they ever did before they ever went in. So it becomes this issue, and it's why so many people go back to prison so quickly after they come out, And I do think we need more we need more socialism, more socialized programs for these people to integrate them into society. I had to do it the hard way, and I got lucky. If the police would have found me doing some of the stuff I was doing the first 2 years after I got out, I'd have been right back into, it was a crapshoot. I got lucky. But I was able to change myself. A lot of people don't make it that far.
Rage, maybe you're an authority on this. You might actually have the answer, but I know from hearsay, essentially from, I don't know if you're familiar, but I actually did some volunteer work and I did some the support for the craft programs that are inside the prisons, the supplies and that. I took them out. So I actually got to interact with a number of prisoners, and for a lot of them, when they reached the time that they were allowed to apply for probation, they didn't want to go out into society and be monitored for exactly the reasons you're talking about. So they refused to take probation, served out their entire sentence, walked out the door, and were like off the chain, off the leash, unsupervised, unrecorded, no probation agent, no nothing. They were like 4 years in prison and just doink, have a nice life.
Yeah. And that's how it was for me. One day I was in prison. The next day I was free, and my brother was picking me up with a joint and a beer for the ride home. I went home. I was in North Carolina for 4 days, and I moved to Michigan. And even that, so I removed myself from my community where I was doing all my bad stuff, and it took 2 years where I was lucky because I came up here and I started doing what I knew how to do. It took me a while all right, I can't do this anymore. And really took the birth of my child for me to grow up and be responsible, honestly. And I've always been honest about that. I had my first kid late, so it took me, I grew up later than most.
Sure.
Well, and that's the other thing is like young people make more mistakes. So the population in the prison systems is always trending younger. Violent offenders, people who serve 20, 25 life, they grow old in prison. So there's a larger, older element of that.
There's also people down here that will use the prison system to get health care. Like, I seriously know a guy who committed a crime just to go get dental work.
Yeah, I've seen that happen.
He's so institutionalized, like, he doesn't mind going to jail. Like, if the cops come to get him, he's, like, ready for it. He's like, yeah.
I know we're probably, I'm sure since you started at 9:30, we end at 10:30, but we really have to look at, the inner societies of the society, right? So Dune, it's a movie about to come out. I really hope they do it justice this time, but it's the perfect series of books that really addresses this issue to where, like, Dune is this prison planet and it's this really harsh environment to where you survive, right? So the person that can tap that resource, which everybody thought it's the spice, it's the people on the planet that's a resource. And that's what these series is about, is this people using these people in these very harsh systems to be able to do things that nobody's ever done before. And if you're not looking at somebody being born into a life, and that's the only life they've ever known, because the society around them promotes that lifestyle, and you grow up and by the age of 7 you're selling crack on the corners with the adults. If you're not addressing that, you're not going to address the prison system.
Yeah, I love Dune. Great fucking series. Yeah. And the funny enough thing about the people that live on Dune, they're called Fremen, which is a gnat's away from freemen.
Yeah.
Free men. Yeah. So.
Yeah. The jihad. I mean, I'm excited for the movie. Paulo Gia, he's in the business. He swears that this movie is going to do the book justice.
It's a tough book to do justice.
Yeah. It's very tough. It's very tough.
Yeah.
The Kwisatz Haderach.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll probably fuck that up, but
Yeah, see, I always pronounce it Kwisatz Haderach.
It's however it sounds in your head.
I always skip the dictionaries, though, in every book I ever read. Fuck that dictionary. I'll say it how I say it.
I will say this. When I first read through Dune and they mentioned the voice, it's like, the voice is real. The voice is real.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's if you use
So
the correct
you
tone and
you guys have read it, so you understand my analogy. They like these very harsh systems, like the Emperor's Planet. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like the precursor to Arrakis. The Emperor did the same thing, got his elite fighting force using the same methods on that other. And Paul Muad'Dib would go and do the same thing on Arrakis. So, it's these conditions that breed the human, and if you're not dealing with the conditions, you're never going to change the human.
well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's the thing, is that we'd all like to think that we are independent agents, right, in the world, especially the America myth, right? We're all just free agents, completely unaffected by our communities, and whatever decisions we make are completely independent of the causes around us or the effects around us. And that's just not true. That's just not true.
That's not how it works.
No. Yeah. So I am looking forward to Dune. When's it out? Rage?
I can't remember the date. It's soon. It's coming out on HBO Max soon. I have to get into HBO Max and see. It should be soon though. I'm a little. I liked him in Game of Thrones, but Jason Momoa, I mean, he's playing Duncan Idaho. I'm a little scared. I'm a little scared. I ain't gonna lie.
Isn't that the guy who played Aquaman?
Yeah.
I like Aquaman.
Yeah, I mean, he's good. I'm just not sure if he's Duncan Idaho. I'm gonna be picky.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right, I'm gonna start winding down. Anyone got anything going on the rest of the day?
I do want to say congratulations on your anniversary. Y'all sticking together.
Congratulations, Andy.
3 years. How crazy is that, man?
Heck yeah.
3 years. God damn.
Yeah.
Is this your relationship anniversary or your podcast or your?
This is the relationship with the girlfriend.
The girlfriend put up with you for that
congratulations to both
long.
of you.
She has put up with me that long. I don't know how it's possible, to tell you the truth. I can be. Well, you've heard the stories. You've heard some of the stories.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can be somewhat irritating.
Well, I think that's like proof that she's an amazing woman.
Yeah.
Well,
I was getting ready to say that.
Yes.
Very patient, very forgiving.
And she let you get a cat. So
That's
she's
right.
she's a compassionate, amazing woman.
Oh wow, compassionate is definitely part of it. Yeah. I got lucky.
Yeah.
Because I've been really unlucky.
Let's not roll the clock back to there yet. You have wonderful children. You're in a great relationship.
Yep.
You have a strong and growing following. You have
All these affirmations, Dave. I appreciate it.
and did you do a Pathos this morning? Did you?
I did one about I forget what it was about. It was funny. Oh, it was about the ballots in Texas being found stuck.
Yes, that's right.
And Planned Parenthood. Yeah.
In Planned Parenthood, right.
Wow.
In a box called Hillary's emails and stuff.
Yeah.
But tomorrow I'm going to use that ivermectin shells, shotgun shells idea. I'm going to use
Real
that.
quick before you close, so you heard the stories about Pompeo mainly, and the CIA planning on capturing and assassinating Julian Assange.
I heard about that, dude. Yeah.
Wow, I was like, we're back in the dark ages of America. Yeah, you might have talked about it. I just found out about it yesterday.
No.
I was like, holy crap, is this real?
But the thing is, like, I just heard that, and I'm like, yeah, could be real. Like it's not an amazing story anymore.
Well, is he still holed up in the embassy in what the fuck country? Sweden or something like that? Shit, I don't know.
Well,
Assange?
Yeah, Assange.
Isn't he in Russia? Or is that the other?
Snowden.
That was
Snowden.
Snowden, yeah.
Snowden's in Russia.
Assange was in some place we couldn't touch him for
Yeah,
until we
he was in
could.
an embassy. I think he was in a South American embassy,
Oh, was he? Okay.
like in Ecuador. I think he was in the Ecuadorian.
And
Ecuador.
let me just say,
With our snipers pointed at those windows.
let me just say for the record, if anyone out there believes that the United States would have to spend more than 48 hours planning the assassination of someone like that, you are sadly mistaken, because the technology and the espionage and the people with the skill set and the collaborations with other nations, the exchange of favors, that would happen about as easily as most of us can order lunch on Uber Eats.
I mean, we'll see what comes out on this, but according to the reports, like this was, open invitation to all scenarios. I guess Pompeo even went public with the exact terminology that he needed to use to use it legally for this scenario of the CIA pretty much doing whatever the hell they wanted to do. Yeah, I mean, I think that if we wanted to get them, we could have gotten them a lot earlier than what we did. Eventually, we did negotiate them, and we got them.
Yeah. All right. On that note, everyone, thank you. Ecuador embassy. He's now in the British prison, Mr. Assange. Thank you.
Okay.
Marmaduke Scarlet.
How did Marmaduke Scarlet get biscuit?
He did get biscuit, didn't he? Yeah, he has a very biscuit-like avatar. Well done, sir. All right. Thank you, panel. Thank you, chat. Thank you, observers, lurkers. Same thing tomorrow, right? Whatever this is.